This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're going to learn things today. It surprised me. I know it's going to surprise you. And if you're having some health challenges, maybe if you're trying to lose weight and it's not happening, there may be a reason for it. And it's something that you would never even consider. Believe it or not, might have something to do with your lymphatic system. She's our expert on that. She has so much insight. We've learned so much in getting together with her. And we're going to dig in to a condition. There's a few of them, one of them being lymphedema. That's where I lean off and I lean toward the president and owner of Boone Lymphatics and Massage Therapies. Ann Boone is back on the program with us. How are you doing today?
I'm really good, Steve. I know that you're snowed in up there. We've just had a little dusting here, but I can see that you're in your home studio.
Yeah. It's been
Yeah.
nice little challenge, and honestly, I feel like a slug because I can't move around, and maybe my lymphatic fluid isn't moving around there. Have you? You're in Kentucky, right?
I am in Kentucky.
What's the most snow you ever got that you can recall? I'm just wondering down south there.
Well, I've been here about 40 years, and I know we've gotten 2 feet at a time. I know in the late 70s, they got like what you're talking about now, 5 to 10 foot drifts and
Wow.
things
Okay.
like that. We get more ice here. So when we had that last little round a few weeks ago, we
Sure.
got more ice and you all get more snow. So yeah, so we're very spotty. You tend to get more regular weather. We may have no snow one winter, and then the last 2 winters we've had a big snow, and then it stays freezing and it stays on the ground for weeks.
Mm. And to your point, we last number of winters have been pretty mild, no major issues, not a lot of snow, but they did say maybe it was the Farmer's Almanac over the summer that this winter was going to be a lot more. Everybody says, "How is that?" Yeah, yeah, they're never right. Yeah, they were right. They were right. Um, well, you've talked about lymphedema before, but there's other conditions as well. And I'm trying to recall the names of them, but they are related to the lymphatic system. Can we talk about that?
Sure. So we've talked about the anatomy, the physiology of the basic lymphatic system, and then last time we talked about uh, a pathology called lymphedema, which is excess protein in the system, and then the body's not able to get rid of it. Um, this time, I'd like to focus on lipedema. And the three basic types of edema are straight up edema. That's something that all of us have probably had at some point in our lives. You have an injury, you have swelling, that's edema. Could be from trauma, it could be from eating too much salty food, these types of things. So just regular edema. Then
Mm.
you have lymphedema, which I just mentioned is a high protein dump into the lymphatic system that it can't handle. And then there's a lot of swelling. Also happens when people have lymph nodes removed for surgeries or radiation or the combination of the two.
Wow.
Now, lipedema is a chronic fat distribution disorder. So it involves the lymph system as well as the way that we process fats, because the lymph system is very integral in the way that we metabolize fats. And it is also involved with the fascial system, which is the connective tissue that holds everything together, and almost exclusively affects women. There are very few men. It's rare to see a man, and hormonal changes can affect it. So really strongly linked to hormonal changes, especially around puberty,
Mm.
pregnancy, or menopause. So what you'll see with lymphedema, say if I'm looking at a leg, the person will have swelling all the way down into the foot. With lipedema, the hallmark is that the swelling stops right at the ankle and the foot looks completely normal. And for years, what they did was, women were just told to diet and things like that. And that does not get rid of it, because it is an inflammatory process that's happening in the body. And until you address the inflammatory process, you're not going to even start to make headway. So
Mm.
lymphatic drainage is one part of the treatment for it. but there's also looking at your diet, looking at your movement. You don't want to do anything that is too intense, like high intensity interval training will cause more inflammation in the body. So
Hmm.
looking at different types of exercise, lifting weights that are heavier, that type of thing, stretching. And then also they're starting to find that there is a psycho-emotional piece of that. So where our mind starts, the body goes. So if we are always in a state of fight or flight, our our physiology is going to pump out adrenaline and all these different things that think that we need to get ready to run or fight or do whatever. And so if that is not addressed, it's difficult to get the entire inflammatory process of the body down to a level where you can start to work on this.
That one condition where the swelling stops at the ankle, why would it stop there and not continue into the foot? Beautiful
I don't know.
imagery.
Yeah.
I've seen it
Yeah.
before in friends and relatives where,
Yeah.
we've joked around. Oh, Joe's got cankles this week.
Cankles. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And this is even more, you'll see instead of just being, like a stovepipe, these actually get so much fluid, they almost fold around. It almost looks like a stocking that has
Gotcha.
has fallen down. And so it's not just simply fluid, it's a fat disorder. So I don't know if maybe
Wow.
because the foot doesn't have as much fat in it. I mean, the pads on the bottom are fat. I'm not sure. That
Hmm.
I will certainly be looking that up now.
I'm just curious. I find it
I'm
fascinating,
curious too.
how this all works, where it would just stop there, with one condition, but maybe not the other one. Um, what's causing all of this is obviously it's the lymphatic fluid is being compromised or the system's being compromised, but could it be so many different things involved here?
It really is because it's not caused by overeating. So it can be very frustrating for the person because they might over diet and then they cause more issues with their metabolism.
Hmm.
Um, as I mentioned, as I mentioned, um, inflammation. So looking at subclinical levels of vitamins and minerals and hormone levels, all of those things need to be addressed because when your hormones are off, they're fat soluble vitamins and that store in your tissues. So if you have subclinical levels of different hormones, which have there are big fluctuations with women around puberty and again menopause and menstruation, that if you're not addressing the inflammatory process that goes on with that fat, then it's very difficult to treat. It's different in treating it as a manual lymphatic drainage therapist. I'm not just using the light touch that I normally would. We talked about a nice light stretch.
Sure.
So I'd start to treat it with some manual lymphatic drainage, and then I would maybe use, and you really have to gauge it because at first they bruise very easily. There's a lot of tenderness and pain. And so I have to, as a therapist, really gauge pressure with maybe some gua sha tools, which are flat. I have a flat jade stone or even some blades, but I'm going very gently. But I'm trying to encourage the fascia to glide more. Right now, it's stuck. You can almost think of it as cheesecloth with fat being pushed through it. So you see people people talk about cellulite. That often is lipedema. So women gather that around their hips. They can have it in the arms, that type of thing. So excuse me.
Wow.
So yeah, so when you see that, it's this, if you think of that cross linking of all that fascia and the fat is try to redistribute itself in a smooth way, there's no smooth way for it to do it. So high inflammatory diet, stress, we all have stress, but if you don't have a light at the end of the tunnel, then that just keeps building up. And movement, a lot of times these people get to the point where they can barely move. Compression is important with lipedema, but they can't simply put their legs up and have this go away. It's not something you can just put your legs up the wall or elevate your legs. Whereas for regular edema, that is helpful, and lymphedema to a certain extent it is as well.
Hmm. When you talk about cellulite, it's virtually impossible to get rid of. In my understanding, I have friends who are cosmetic surgeons. I do marketing for them as well, and other companies. And there's lots of treatments out there to minimize it. But it's to your point where you can't, it's very stubborn to get rid of in terms of what's going on there within the body.
Yeah, it has to be a multi-prong approach. So there are a
Hmm.
lot of gimmicks out there like wraps and machines, radio frequency machines, things like this that'll say they break
Yes.
up fat, that type of thing. You can't break up fat. The fat molecules that you obtain in periods of rapid growth, like thick puberty, young adulthood, you always have those fat cells unless they do liposuction, they remove those fat cells. They just shrink and they get bigger. So that's why it can be very difficult when you've been heavy to keep that weight off because that the fat cells are always there. So that's why liposuction with lipedema, they also do surgeries where they do liposuction to the legs and that type of thing. But it is, I think it's so difficult for most people because they don't strictly follow this multi-prong approach to treating it with diet, with the proper movement, with working on the psychology of what's going on, all of those different things. Doctors often are just treating the symptoms. They're not, and a lot of people aren't willing to go and do all of those things because it's not a quick fix and it takes consistency and it takes a really long time. It can take months and years for you to see a big difference.
Mhm. Well, to your point, Western medicine doctors, you have 11 minutes on average with them. That's the high and goodbye. They're not getting the full story and the full details. And this is, like you said, multi-prong approach. There's a lot going on here. Not take this pill and lose weight, or GLP-1. All right, there's more. There's
Right,
more going on.
right.
You mentioned diet, and I don't believe we've really delved into that when it comes to lymphedema, edema. And more. What are some diet suggestions or guidelines to give you the best outcome, the best health with an eye on these things?
Well, again, as I've said before, I'm not a nutritionist and I don't play
Sure.
one on a podcast. Uh,
But you play
but
one very well.
the literature shows that with edema, lymphedema, and lipedema, that and we spoke last time about electrolytes and water salt balance, water electrolyte balance.
Sure.
It's important that you're very well hydrated. It's important that you don't hydrate so much that you wash out all of your sodium. So you want to make sure that you're getting healthy salts, potassium, magnesium, those types of things. But
Hmm.
so many of us eat foods that have hidden or not so hidden salts. You and I spoke one time about soups, any kind of fast food, anything that is probably something you didn't make from scratch and didn't add a lot of salt to is probably, if it's a processed food, it's probably going to have salt in it. So that's one thing the person has to watch. What happens with a lot of women as well is they limit their protein and fat when they're dieting. And we need protein and fat. We especially need protein.
Yeah.
And the current, some of the current thinking is that we need a gram or so per pound of ideal body weight. And that can be really hard to get. That's a lot, you know. So if you weigh 150 pounds, that's, 15 grams or 150 grams of protein a day. And that's quite a bit. We want healthy fats. So non, what do I want to say, saturated fats. So a lot of times people will, especially women, will go on these yo-yo dieting types of things, which just makes things worse because your body keeps resetting and thinking, oh, you're starving me. So I'm only going to require 1,000 calories a day. And even though you're only taking in 1,200, you're already at a surplus. So again, I send my clients who have this condition or have any issues with needing some dietary consultation to a few different nutritionists in town so that they can
Hmm.
talk to them. They're not lipedema specialists, but they can start to work with them. A lot of people don't eat enough fresh food, salads, fruits, vegetables, those types of things, clean meats, looking at meats that don't have hormones in them, that type of thing. So you're not adding to the hormone load.
Wow. Um, in terms of percentage, and every situation is different, and I know you're not a nutritionist, but what percentage do you feel that diet plays into these conditions, lymphedema, edema, and such? What do you think? Out of 100, 100%, yeah, diet is it. Obviously, it's not. Where would you put diet?
I'd say it's pretty high on the list because I love the saying, pay the farmer, not the pharmacist. So,
Oh, I'm
you
going to
know,
remember that one. That's good.
yeah, pay the farmer, not the pharmacist. So, there are drugs that have their uses. If you have diabetes, you need to obviously pay attention to diet. If it's type 2, if it's type 1, you're born with this condition and you have to manage it even more carefully. So that's a diet related as
Sure.
well as medication. I couldn't really give you a percentage, but I would definitely say it's high on the list, even if you don't have any of these conditions. Just as a human being walking around, looking at not just grabbing quick things to eat and not being conscious about what you're putting in your body, because food is medicine
Yeah.
and you have to kind of look at it as that. And unfortunately, a lot of my doctor friends as well say, we have maybe 3 hours of nutrition in medical school and that's it.
Mm.
So they're treating symptoms, so I'd say it's pretty high on the list. I couldn't really give you a percentage.
Yeah. And it seems like you really need to be intentional, right down to your talking about soup. I've grabbed off the shelf low sodium. Yeah. Okay. Flip that around. Oh my gosh, look what's in there. And what they'll do is that can is like 2.5 servings. And when you look at the one serving of soup, even low sodium, that's like three mouthfuls with it's not even
Right.
a
Most of us
meal.
eat the can.
Yeah, and what are
Yeah.
you looking at? Even with low sodium, you're probably at minimum 500 milligrams of sodium. Soup often has a lot of it in it, but again, if you're trying to be mindful, you really need to be intentional about everything you are consuming. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's work. You got to
Well,
do work.
it's work, but what would you rather work on the front end and be healthier and not miss as many days of work and be more functional and have better quality of life? Or would you like to feel bad and, not? It does take work in the beginning, especially if you've never been somebody who's been taught to eat that way. I was
Sure.
very lucky growing up in California. We had a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and all kinds of dietary focus. Whereas I have a lot of clients who've never, especially here in the South, a lot of my clients have grown up on, collard greens with ham in it. Every vegetable has ham in it. Ham hock, fried. I'm right in the heart attack belt here, down through Ohio, down through the Appalachians. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And sodium is an important mineral for us to uptake, but again, it's not to the exclusion of potassium and magnesium and other minerals.
I feel it's a habit too. I haven't touched a salt shaker since I was a kid. I'm not exaggerating. I just don't
Yeah.
crave it. I'm a little now, since I don't intentionally add it to things, I'm more salt sensitive. So if I have something that's very salty, it's like I want to taste flavor. I don't want to, taste the salt. There's a place for it there, but point is, once you get into the habit of not doing it, same thing with sugar. I would never add sugar. A cup of coffee, never. Now that I've heard about the inflammation, all of this stuff, the refined sugar, how bad it is for you, I wouldn't even touch it. I just don't. Would I use something like stevia? Yes, but then here we go again. Not to go in this rabbit hole, but you've got to be careful about that. You might go to a convenience store, see the green packet. Stevia, this is great. I'm taking care of myself. It's not pure stevia, which is a natural sweetener. They put other stuff in it. So you really need to be diet intentional. But look at the outcome. Look at the
Well, and
outcome.
sugar's an addiction, so first of all, you have to wean yourself off of that. And then put into that, if you're a smoker, your taste buds are not as acute. They're usually dull. So you tend to
Mm.
salt your food more. You tend to put more sugar
Interesting.
and things like that. So yeah, just taking your health in steps, instead of trying to change things all at once. So even with the lipedema, circling back to that, just starting first of all, maybe with some movement, even if it's just sitting in your chair and wiggling your feet, that type of thing. And then, maybe a month down the road, just adding things as you can go. Because if you think about having to do all of that stuff all at once, it can be quite overwhelming. And especially when you're already struggling just to get out of bed in the morning and get dressed, because some of these people have 100 pounds of excess weight, and a lot of that is fluid and fat. And it's not just something you can diet away.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. Even we minimize it. I'm at my desk. I got things going on. what's it going to do me, moving my legs and my feet? No. As I've learned from you, it's going to benefit you greatly because you're moving the fluid. We don't think of it that way. We just think of getting exercise, which is important, but that's the other benefit. We're moving the fluid within our body, right?
Yeah, well, and just getting up for 5 minutes, there was just an informal study, no double blind anything, but they took people and one day they told them you have to sit at your desk all day long. You can't get up. You can go to the bathroom once or twice, but you can't get up.
Sure.
The next group, they told them get up every hour for 5 minutes, move your arms around. They took their vitals before and after each of these. And the blood pressure was higher in people who sat all day long. Blood sugar was higher. All these different measurements just a day. And so, we're motion is lotion. We're meant to move.
Got to remember that one too. Pay the
Yep.
farmer or the pharmacist. Motion is
Right.
lotion.
That's right. I didn't make up either one of those, but I use them all the time.
They're so as everything you do, crystal clear, understandable, and usable. What's the best way to find you, Ann?
So you can find me online at boonemassagetherapy.com. That's BooneMassagetherapy.com. Or you can leave a message on that website or call 859-209-9005.
Now, certainly the hands-on aspect of what you do, you have to be in Kentucky where you are in that geo. But there's a lot you can do virtually, right?
There's some I can do virtually, but if people call me from other states, I can recommend somebody in their state because we have databases within our trainings that we take that I can access to find therapists for people in other states or even other cities.
Without people like you talking about this, none of us would ever know about it. It would be completely off our radar. The lymphatic system and how important it is within our bodies and the things we need to do. Thank you so much for being here today again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. And I won't see you for the next 2 weeks because I'm going to be at the lymphedema training.
Where are they doing that?
It's going to be just outside of Charlotte. So it's a 9-day course. And then I had to do 40 hours online.
Wow. Final question. Do you
Yes.
find once you go into this area of the medical world, do you get addicted where I want to learn more. I'm thirsty. I want to learn more.
Well, this has always been my OCD for sure. Since I was about 10 years old, I love anything about the body. So for myself, I can only speak for myself, but yes.
Yeah.
I think, it feeds me literally.
The passion
and
shows.
Figuratively.
It really does.
You.
And I appreciate you making it easy to understand. This could get a little deep and technical, but it's practical advice. And for that, I appreciate it. Enjoy the conference. We'll talk soon. Okay.
All right. Get up and walk. Bye.
Yep. Yeah. There's another one. All right. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.